Okay, let's be honest. Your home's heating and cooling system, it can feel like this big, complicated, and super expensive mystery box sitting in your basement. Today, we're going to pull back that curtain. We're going to look at everything from the most common problems to those huge repair or replace decisions you're eventually going to face. So let's just dive right in. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? I mean, when your heat gives out in the middle of a January night, or your AC dies during a brutal heat wave, it is not just an inconvenience. No way. It's a full-blown emergency, and you need answers, and you need them fast. You know, it helps to think of your HVAC unit as this kind of unsung hero of your house. Seriously, day in and day out, it's fighting this invisible war against crazy temperatures, humidity, dust, all just to keep you comfortable. But that constant fight, well, it definitely takes a toll. To really understand this battle, we're going to zero in on a place with some pretty extreme weather, St. Louis Park, Minnesota. Now, even if you live somewhere completely different, the challenges this area faces are a perfect showcase of the invisible forces that are hammering away at your own system right now. The enemies your system fights are just relentless. You've got these brutal sub-zero winters that push the furnace to its absolute breaking point for months on end. Then, bam, summer hits with that sticky, oppressive humidity, which doesn't just strain the AC, but can lead to issues like mold. And if that wasn't enough, you've got these freeze-thaw cycles that beat up the outdoor unit and even shifting soil that can literally pull your ducts apart. It's a massive fight. So what happens when all that stress just becomes too much? Well, this climate war almost always leads to a few very common system failures, the kinds of breakdowns you're most likely to see in your own home. Oh yeah, this is a classic winter nightmare. You hear the system click on, you hear the fan running, but the air coming through the vents is just ice cold. The furnace is trying, but it just won't light. So what's happening here is the little part that's supposed to get red hot and light the gas, the igniter, it literally cracks under the pressure. Think about it, heating up and cooling down, over and over, thousands of times. After a long, hard winter, it's a failure caused by pure and simple exhaustion. All right, let's flip the calendar to summer for a minute. Your AC has been running all day, but it's just not getting cool in the house. And you might even peek outside and see ice forming on the pipes. That is a huge red flag for a refrigerant leak. So how does this even happen? Well, those same freeze-thaw cycles we talked about physically bend and stress the copper lines. You combine that with a constant vibration from the system running, and tiny, microscopic leaks start to form. It's like your AC is slowly bleeding out its lifeblood. Now this one can get you any time of year. Why? Because it's the heart of the whole operation. It's the big fan, the blower motor, that actually moves all the warm or cool air through your house. It never gets a break. This is just a straight-up case of wear and tear. In a climate where you need a lot of heating and a lot of cooling, that motor is running almost non-stop, and eventually the little parts inside, like the bearings, they just wear out. And when they go, the air stops moving, period. Okay, so when one of these major breakdowns happens, especially with an older system, you are suddenly staring down the barrel of a really tough and, let's face it, a really expensive decision. This is the question every homeowner dreads, right? Do you dump hundreds, maybe even a couple $1,000 into fixing this old machine? Or do you bite the bullet and make that huge investment in a brand new system? It's a serious dilemma. But here's a fantastic little tool to help you out. It's called the $5,000 rule. It's super simple. Say your furnace is 12 years old, and a technician tells you the repair is going to cost $500. You just multiply those two numbers, 12 times 500. That gives you $6,000. Since that number is over the $5,000 threshold, the rule suggests that you should seriously think about replacing it instead of sinking more cash into a system that's on its last legs. And the trade-offs here are pretty crystal clear. Repairing is cheaper right now, for sure, but you're still stuck with an old, inefficient system with a bunch of other parts that are just as old. Replacing costs more upfront, no doubt, but you get way better efficiency, which means lower energy bills, plus you get the peace of mind of all new parts and a nice long warranty. Okay, so let's talk about the part nobody really wants to talk about, the numbers. Understanding what these things can cost can really help you manage your expectations and avoid total sticker shock when you see that final quote. For the more basic repairs,
We're talking simple stuff like a thermostat issue, a bad capacitor, or clearing a clogged drain line. You're usually looking in this ballpark. These are the fixes that, don't completely break the bank.
All right, now we're getting into major surgery. This is the price range for replacing a really critical part, like the AC's compressor or the furnace's heat exchanger. This is that territory where that repair versus replace calculation becomes absolutely critical. And here it is, the big one, a full system replacement. Yeah, the price can be all over the place, depending on how big your house is, how efficient the new unit is, and if they need to do any major work on your ducts. And these lifespans really put those costs into perspective. You'll notice that furnaces, tucked away in a basement, can last a pretty long time. But air conditioners and heat pumps, which sit outside getting beaten up by the elements, they have a shorter life. So if your system is getting close to these ages, a major repair might just be throwing good money after bad. So how do you get off this roller coaster of breakdowns and emergency calls in the middle of the night? The absolute key is to shift your entire mindset from being reactive to being proactive. Let's take a look at what I mean. The difference here is just night and day. Preventative maintenance, like getting a tune-up every year, is all about catching worn-out parts before they can cause a massive failure. It keeps your system running efficiently. An emergency repair, that's just damage control. It's restoring your comfort only after you've already lost it. And look, if you do have to make that call, a professional, stress-free process should always look like this. First, a real person answers the phone and gives you a clear time window. Second, the technician finds the problem and gives you a clear, upfront quote before they touch anything. And third, after they fix it, they test the whole system to make sure it's working right. There should be zero surprises and zero guesswork. So we'll just end on this thought. That machine in your basement or your backyard, it works tirelessly for you, 24/7, fighting off the weather year after year. So the question is, are you giving it the little bit of help it needs to keep winning that fight for you? Because a little proactive care can save you a whole world of emergency stress down the road. Thanks for joining me.